What's going on, everybody? Today is May 25th, 2020, and in this video we're going to talk about today's top news story, which is the front story on both CNN, as it was a little bit ago. This is a screen cap here. It was also the top story on Fox News. Of course, CNN representing the far left in the country, Fox News about as right-leaning as it gets. And this story is a perfect example of how the media every single day releases news stories by a numerical code. And if you think that's crazy, well, that's what I thought when I first got into this as well. But it became quickly apparent to me that this is absolutely the case. Virtually every major news story we get out of the media is a Gematria riddle. Gematria is the practice of coding numbers into words. And we start with the most basic cipher called English ordinal, which numbers the English alphabet 1 through 26. Each letter assigned a number relative to its position in the alphabetic order. This story is about the GOP National Convention. Using the alphabetic order, this sums to 255. Think about today's date that this story got published on, May 25th. The date is written 25/5 internationally. Furthermore, notice how today has primary numerology of 70. GOP stands for Grand Old Party. And notice how Grand Old Party has Gematria of 70 using the reverse alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. These ciphers reduce each double-digit number to a single digit prior to adding it to the equation. In the standard reduction method, GOP convention also sums to 70. Furthermore, today even has standard numerology of 50. 50 is the reduction value of the word convention. And this story is about Donald wanting to move the convention. Donald sums to 50 in the alphabetic order. The other key figure in this news story is Roy Cooper, the governor of North Carolina, a Democrat, who wants to extend the restrictions for the coronavirus pandemic, which would prevent the convention from having full attendance. Well, Roy Cooper has a birth date of June 13th, which is, curiously, just one day off of Donald Trump's, and we'll talk about this in a little bit. But if we measure to Roy Cooper's next birthday, we get exactly 20 days before his 2020 birthday, and in reduction, GOP summing to 20. But as always, there's a much deeper riddle at play here that connects the two characters in this story. First of all, I want to point out how May 25th is particularly significant to Donald Trump during leap years. Notice how Donald Trump's birthday is the 14th of June, written internationally as 14/6. Well, in leap years, May 25th is the 146th day of the year. This date also leaves 220 days on the calendar. And in the reverse alphabetic order, the name Donald John Trump, his full name, sums to 220. Now, if we look at Donald Trump's age on today's date, we find that he's a span of exactly 27,010 days old. Now, this number stands out for anyone who's familiar with Trump's numerology. In numerology, this number represents 271, since the zeros are ignored when we look at the result. Well, 271 is the 58th prime number. Using the prime number cipher, which is essentially the alphabetic order, but with associated prime numbers instead of 1 through 26, notice how the name Donald John Trump equals 580. In the standard reduction method, the man he's feuding with today, Roy Cooper, has Gematria of 58 in reduction. And again, 58, a significant number to Donald Trump. He was the winner of the 58th United States presidential election. The date that he was sworn in had numerology of 58. His candidacy was announced from the 58-story Trump Tower. And then he became the first president to visit the site of Solomon's Temple. And Solomon's Temple, Second Temple, Herod's Temple, Third Temple, all of these phrases sum to 58 in Gematria. And in fact, Roy Cooper's most recent birthday even had primary numerology of 58. But I want to point out how these men are connected further. If you measure from Trump's birthday to the birthday of Roy Cooper, June 13th, 1957, notice how we get a span of exactly 132 months. In reverse Sumerian Gematria, the name Donald John Trump sums to 1320, essentially a 4-digit match with the number of months between their birthdays. And if you're wondering about Sumerian Gematria, this is essentially the alphabetic order and reverse, but with the alphabetic order multiplied by 6. 6 being the number of time, and many historical documents credit the Sumerians with discovering the formula of time. Using the standard alphabetic order, GOP convention sums to 169. This is, intriguingly, also the reverse gematria of the word Republican. Now, the number 169 has a direct connection to the number 13 because 169 is 13 squared. If you measure from the date of today's news story to August 24th, when the GOP National Convention is scheduled to begin, we find it's exactly 13 weeks away. Well, 13 is a number that's significant to Roy Cooper. Not only was he born on the 13th day of the month, but 13 is the 6th prime number, and he was born in the 6th month. Furthermore, the name Roy Cooper has English ordinal gematria of 130, like the number 13. In the reverse order, his name equals 113, and in reverse reduction, his name equals the 13th prime number. Now, another significant cipher I teach, which I say is the most important outside of the alphabetic order, this is called Jewish or Latin gematria. Essentially using the ancient Latin alphabet with numerical structure similar to Hebrew gematria and Greek isopsephy, the newer modern English characters placed at the end. Well, for starters, I want to point out how Cooper equals 248. As I just mentioned, the 24th of August, 24/8, is when the GOP convention is scheduled to begin. Of course, Cooper also equals 72, which is the primary numerology of this date. So no doubt he was placed in office with this convention in mind. But when we write out the number 13 in Jewish gematria, notice how we get a value of 347. Well, if we measure from Roy Cooper's last birthday to the date of today's news story, it's 347 days. To wrap this video up, I just want to talk a little bit more about some miscellaneous numerology involving Roy Cooper and Donald Trump. Again, glancing at English Sumerian gematria, the name Roy Asbury Cooper, it's got that bizarre middle name, Asbury. Notice how in English Sumerian this sums to 1308. Well, the number 138 is particularly significant to the state of North Carolina. Notice how North Carolina was admitted to the Union on November 21st of 1789. This is a date with primary numerology of 138. Just like we can look at any politician and surmise a riddle from their birth date, we can do the same with states. Using the standard alphabetic order, Donald Trump equals 138. And the reason he wants to pull the convention is because they won't allow full attendance. And notice how full attendance also equals 138. And then while we have Sumerian Gematria open, it's worth pointing out that Donald J. Trump, summing to 888, also 148. This story involving North Carolina, 888 and 148 as well. Now, Roy Cooper's full name, notice how he's actually a third. And of course, you see this in celebrities, actors, politicians, way, way more than the general public. People being named junior or third. The average person doesn't really do this, but with the royal bloodlines that are in charge of this country, you see this quite commonly. Well, next I want to look at English Extended Gematria. And this is the cipher that was next to Latin Gematria on the screen. It's essentially the same, but it instead uses the present 26-letter English alphabet. Well, in this method, Roy Cooper's full name equals the 325th prime number. And this is another very relevant number to the state of North Carolina that he governs. North Carolina admitted to the Union on the 325th day of the year. Roy Cooper, in all likelihood, a Freemason. Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, summing to 325 in the alphabetic order. Remember, it's the 33rd degree of Scottish Rite Freemasonry that's said to be the highest. 11 plus 11 plus 11 is 325. Masonry summing to 33. But in this same English extended cipher, there's another riddle with Donald John Trump. Notice how his name sums to 977, which is another prime number. This time it's the 165th prime number. Donald Trump, born on June 14th, which is the 165th day of the year. And 165, another significant number to the Scottish Rite. Remember I talked about Masonry summing to 33, the highest degree of Masonry? Well, 33 is 16 and a half times 2. Think 16.5. Scottish Rite equals 165. And then if we use capital letters, notice how Freemasonry also sums to 165. And then to top that off, Roy Cooper celebrates his birthday on the 165th day of leap years. So this is certainly how it works with our federal government. A group of Kabbalists who understand the relevance of Gematria in relation to creation. And, what we're witnessing is humans essentially trying to play God over the public with their own little language, their own calendar that they designed, for this purpose of essentially controlling our minds and keeping us distracted from the real truth of this world. So every single day, there will always be news to divide the public one way or the other. And it'll always be done by this code. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Thanks to everybody who jumped in. Peace, love, God bless, and we'll talk to you next time. See ya.